How do I figure out what's next in my career? How do I align my work with what truly matters to me? And the biggest question of all, can I really design a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to come at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I've seen how traditional paths can leave people burned out or boxed in. And I know there's a better way, one that invites you to let go of outdated rules and outside expectations, one that evolves and supports meaningful growth over time. Whether you're feeling stuck, craving more clarity, or ready to expand within your current role and beyond, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to explore practical, modern strategies for building a meaningful, heart-based career. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy, and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm Jen Smith, your host, and I'm thrilled to be here with you for part 2 of your Career Reinvention Roadmap. So once you start questioning your path, or maybe you've stepped away from corporate entirely, a new question starts to come to the surface pretty quickly. And that is, what does success even mean to me now? So in this episode, Jen and I talk about how the definitions of success we inherited, like the titles, the ladders, the metrics, and all that external validation, often stop matching who we're becoming. And we explore what happens when success starts to feel more internal and more energetic and, frankly, more like ourselves. We also talk about something just as important when you're reinventing your career, and that is community. Because redefining success and reinventing your career does not happen in isolation. It happens with the right people who can support you, who get it, who can reflect back what you can't see in yourself. So this conversation is about values, it's about joy, purpose, and why having support during reinvention is not an option. It is essential. So let's get to it.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that becomes so real once you step out of corporate, or even when you're thinking about or you're in the process of stepping out. And that's this big, emotional, sometimes confusing question: what does success mean to me now?
Yes, and that's because the version of success that you inherited, the titles, the performance metrics, the ratings, that shiny ladder often stops matching who you are becoming. And then redefining success, it really does not happen just in a vacuum. It happens in community, in the right rooms, and with the right people reflecting your growth back to you, which I just have to mention, Jen and I met through her community, the Brave Women at Work community, which has the podcast community. You said how many authors? 50 authors at this point?
Yeah, we're almost at 50 authors. How amazing is that?
Which is so amazing. So there is community all around you. And I know it's hard when you're in a corporate role and you feel like no one really gets it or gets you if you're feeling that urge to do something different or to leave. But there are tons of communities, and Jen and I are, we are here to help as well.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about 2 core themes during the show. So redefining success and why community is essential during reinvention. So Jen, I'll kick it off. When did you realize the definition of success you'd been carrying no longer matched the life that you really wanted? And then was there that moment that you wanted to, stop and think, this just isn't it anymore?
Yes. This for me was all about the realization that my values had shifted. So that intrinsic motivation was changing. So it used to be, let me get the gold star. Let me hear from my boss that I did a good job. Let me get that promotion or whatever that was. But it started to shift for me when I just craved spaciousness. I craved quiet, like those Teams pings. That wasn't it was kind of funny, but like I needed quiet, Jen. Like I just couldn't deal with the pings, the phone, like I literally couldn't do it anymore. And so I craved this spaciousness, this creativity. And that's when it was just this moment of like, hey, you know what? My values are shifting and that's okay. And what does life look like now? So how about for you? Did something come into light for you from a values perspective or what changed?
So I think it was just one of my biggest values that it's always been there, but it's becoming more of a thing. It's just like this radical honesty and authenticity. And in corporate, it depends on the work environment. So I'm not going to vilify every, company or corporation, but we all know there's that corporate dance and, leave it at the door, like you can rest later, like all of these things where it doesn't feel psychologically safe to be entirely who you are. And I'm really struggling with that, anymore. It's like, no, this is who I am and like it, lump it, love it, don't love it. Like, so authenticity is the one that probably resonates the most with me.
Yeah, it's really hard to notice that too, because you get so ingrained with the folks that you work with and like fitting in and, being part of the crew, that kind of thing. It's really hard to kind of come back to yourself and kind of figure that out. So I give you a ton of credit for working through that.
Mm-hmm. What role for you, Jen, or energy, right? We've talked a little bit, we've touched on it in the first show. What role did that play in like reshaping your definition of success?
Yeah. So, and I talk a lot about energy. Folks know that listen to my show. I talk about energy, impact, values, alignment, all of that. And there was a moment, I'll just share this. When I was doing the corporate gig, but also a side hustle, I started career coaching with the Muse. And I always felt like, in the corporate world, it was like the success was the promotion or the performance rating or the bonuses or whatever it was. But there was this moment when I first started career coaching, my very first client, Sarah, bless her, she booked me and I'll never forget. I helped her with like her professional brand and she was so excited. Like I saw something in her that she didn't see in herself and we were able to bring that to life. She referred her entire family to me.
Wow.
That was my very first client. And so that was like, oh, success can feel really good in a different way. And I never recognized that before. It was always the accolades, these like external validation accolades, but not in the sense of like helping someone else shift in their career. And that the difference in those to me just really reshaped success for me.
What's interesting, what's a word that's coming up for me is when you're on the corporate climb, right, for the accolades and like the corner office and the titles and the pay and all of that, it's a really lonely journey.
Nice.
And when you're talking about the story of Sarah, which is just warms my heart again, it is community-based, right? Because you're paying it forward. So one of the things like in those corporate dog years that I'm learning is I'm now at that level of legacy. Like, how can I leave a legacy? How can I pay it forward? How can I make it better for my daughters, for other people? And I think that's what you probably felt, but I don't want to, say what you felt, but that's what it sounds like to me. What do you think, Jen?
Yes. Like the legacy impact, the impact is different. The impact that you're making is different. And thinking about what legacy, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be remembered for? That makes a really big difference in all of this when you're thinking about that. So Jen, another thing that's coming up as we're talking here is this idea of purpose. So like contributing differently. And that's kind of what I was just sharing there about like the difference in the day job versus the side hustle. So how does that feel for you? Your desire to contribute differently, does that guide any of your decisions?
Yes, because like in corporate, there is a set of like edicts or, policies, procedures, right? And so you're in that cadre of that community, right? And what I learned also talking about values, not only authenticity, but I also wanted that freedom. Like freedom is monstrous for me. And so I love that, I can decide like Jen and I are going to do a podcast. Like I don't need to go to committee or talk, like review a policy to be like, hey, I want to do this type of show, or hey, I want to build this course, or hey, I want to do this or write this book or whatever. And that feels to me so darn good.
Ooh, freedom is a word. It is a word. Yes, it's just like, that autonomy. I always talk about too, like my time is my time. Like I want my time to be my time and that freedom to spend my time the way that I want to spend it. So yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So, Jen, for you, do you remember a moment when you realized that you needed different people, like people that knew or really understood in their bones your new season and to support you in your new chapter?
Yes. And I think we were talking about this earlier, where like sometimes the corporate people, especially if you want to leave corporate, like they just don't get it. It's different, right? What you want to do is different. And so I'll never forget this moment. I went to a fabulous conference. It's called Alt Summit, and it's with creative entrepreneurs. And I had gone literally the week before the world shut down the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. And it was so inspiring and so amazing. And I remember even coming back and telling my dad, like, these are my people. Like, it just felt like this is it for me. Like, these are the people I want to be around. And so that was a really defining moment. And then I also, for myself, signed up for coaching to get some support in terms of like, how do I not do this on my own? And how can I ask for help in order to really get me out of where I've been in this whole time. So those two things really, really shaped it for me.
Yeah, same. So now you're selling the Alt Summit. Like I got to go to this thing. I have not gone to this thing. Yeah, because it is a little crazy making when you're in corporate and you're in the in-between, speaking from my perspective, because everyone's like, why are you doing more? Like, why are you working like and burning the oil and not being on your corporate laptop? And it is a little crazy making because it's really lonely. So it's good to have that community. So maybe I'll attend that.
Yes, Alt Summit is highly recommended. They do it in the spring every year. I'm pretty sure they do it in the spring of every year, and it's in a different location. So when I went, it was in Palm Springs, which was amazing, especially it was in February. So coming out of a Buffalo winter, going to Palm Springs was fabulous. So yeah, we'll definitely, we'll share that in the show notes for sure. So Jen, speaking of community, you have a fabulous community, which I will shout from the rooftops, and we'll make sure that there's information in the notes for folks. So your Brave Women at Work community is amazing. But for you personally, how has community stretched you or softened you or held you accountable when, maybe the corporate ecosystem didn't?
So I did. Well, okay. So I grew up in a family where my dad would say, hey, if you want it done, do it yourself. And my parents were a little bit on the loner side. I didn't see my parents have friends, really, which is something I'm changing in my own story and with my girls and, my husband and stuff like that. So in corporate, it is a little lonely, especially as you ascend, right? Because you can't tell people the news. Like, Jen and I were talking before we hit record. I could not tell some of the news, right, that I had to share, in the last few weeks because it's just isolating. It's just not appropriate, right? So I have to give a shout out to Hope Mueller, who is a great connector and is the owner and founder of Hunter Street Press. And it just started opening. And also Natalie Benamu and Sheila Higgs Burkhalter and like all of these amazing female connectors, which have allowed me to start to grow my baby connector, which sounds kind of funny, but it's not natural for me. This podcast has helped me with that because I was always kind of on my own, right? And so it has softened me. It has allowed me to see things in different perspectives, like non-corporate perspectives, which has been really refreshing.
Yeah, I can't, I totally agree with you on that, Jen. Like, community for me is not a natural thing. I'm not a natural connector either, but I have learned, especially through the Brave Women at Work community and writing the chapter in that book, how critical and how important community is. And think about, and I think we all learned this too, going through the pandemic and feeling so isolated in our day-to-day, and how important, finding other like-minded people to support you is so important. And I really appreciate you sharing that. And I really appreciate the Brave Women at Work community because I never would have told my story if it wasn't for the community. And just doing it in community was, it was just so critical. And so it felt so much more from the heart. It felt like we were cheering each other on, we're sharing these like really vulnerable stories, and like being there for each other and cheering each other on it just makes life so much more rewarding. And the other thing that you mentioned too is the world of podcasting. Same. Like I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for the podcast.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have any professional friends if it wasn't for the podcast. Especially being like a solopreneur. Like that was such an unexpected joy of starting a podcast, was meeting other like-minded people. So I can't stress enough the power of community.
Yes. And so we'll give a couple other shout outs because I just feel like I'm ignoring them, right? Jackie Satera, great connector.
Yes.
JNC Innovation, shout out. Amy Quisenberry, Start With Compassion, another shout out. Some of the other wonderful women in our book on letting go. And there's more that I'm forgetting, but just think about that. We've just like rattled off like 4 or 5 names, and it was through the power of community.
Yes. Couldn't agree more.
Exactly. So Jen, if you had to summarize your personal definition of success today, this is a big question, right? In this chapter of your life, what would it be?
So I think about success as experiences. So I get to do the coolest projects. I mean, let's be real. We talk about the podcast, the Brave Women at Work project, creating a planner, my in-season planner, being part of multiple different communities. So these experiences are so fun. And I get to pick them. I get to work with really cool people and just define this for myself versus it being handed to me or someone telling me what I have to do, for the greater good of an organization, which is fine. And that was fine. But now it's just different for me. And I think I mentioned before, like my time is my time and I get to define how I want to use my time. And I share this all the time, is that we work a third of our lives, 90,000 hours of our lives is going to be spent at work. Like, why wouldn't we create experiences that are going to be joyful and fun versus like draining, literally sucking the life out of us? So that's, and I've been there. Like, I know how that feels. And so that's what it feels like and sounds like for me. What about for you, Jen?
So success now, I'm working on it. I'm in the process. I'm in the middle. So I have corporate success. So for all of you who are in the middle, that's why this is a fun podcast series. But I also have my personal success. So that is, again, spending my time the way I want to, leaving a legacy for my daughters, showing them it can be done. Like I learned in my 40s, like I don't want my girls to wait until their 40s. I want them to know like, wow, I can have a really cool career. I can do things that light me up, right? I don't have to just take every traditional path. And so I think the last piece of success for me would be, I am still working on this, is being really present. Like, I think Jackie says this, Jackie Satera is like, be where your feet are. And sometimes like, I'm like, oh my God, I got to like, I got to do this. I got my phone. I'm like multitasking. So one of the things in my transition I'm most looking forward to is the unwinding of corporate multitasking and to just really be present with my girls.
Oh, and how lucky are your girls to be able to observe that in their mom, like what a beautiful, legacy you're leaving for them, and permission. Like that's the other thing. Like there's a whole thing about permission in here too. Like permission to like, I feel like our world of work is really shifting, like literally as we speak right now. Is it used to be, spending 35 years in a certain path. And it's not like that anymore. What you were describing earlier made me think of like this whole notion. And I think our world of work is moving towards like, gig talent and, portfolio careers. So having like multiple streams of income coming in, right now you could make money, on an app going and delivering food or, our world of work is changing so much. And so the fact that you can define what that looks like for you and define what success looks like for you in this shifting world of work, I think is a really cool opportunity. So something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie Benham was the first one that told me, hey, do you know you have a portfolio career? I'm like, what's a portfolio career, right? So I'm on the forefront. So everybody look that up. If you don't know what a portfolio career is, look it up because who knows, you might be able to start your own. So
yes.
Okay, so redefining success isn't about throwing away everything you've built. It's about returning to what was always true for you underneath all the noise that we've talked about in the first two shows.
Yes. And I just have to add that you don't have to do it alone. Community is there for you. It will expand you. It'll help you see who you're becoming. It'll hold up a mirror to you and it'll give you that courage, especially in the days when you don't have that for yourself. And I can personally say that I'm living proof of that. And Jen is in the process of that as well. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. And we'll be back next week. We're getting very practical. So we're going to talk about taking action, building new habits and rituals, trying to maybe experiment to find your way, and then creating space for this next version of your career and life.
So it's all about turning insight into action. So we will see you next week.